Charting the Course, your guide to Southwest Florida living, real estate, and life on the water.
Welcome to another edition of Charting the Course, matching your waterfront property to your boat. I'm your host, Captain Mike Ludwig, Waterways in Paradise. My guest today is Chris Judd, Naples Boat Mart. Chris, welcome.
Thank you, Michael.
It's really great to have you back again. For the viewers that don't know us or haven't been around us, I've been here for 18 years, but 18 years ago, I bought my first boat from Chris when I came here. So from there, our relationship just continued to flourish. We've always got along well. Chris, how many years have you been in this business?
33 this year.
33 years. Okay, so that's 51. But so between us, you're 26 and I'm 25 years old. But we got a lot of great experience to show to help them out with today. Okay, because the whole idea we're doing this is to bring value. Okay, and the whole idea is to match your waterfront property to your boat. And there's a lot of information that we're going to go through, especially from the MLS side or the real estate side, that is just not in the MLS. Because if you're buying the boat, you want to make sure it fits your lifestyle, but more importantly, you want to make sure it fits the property you're at, and that can be sometimes challenging. For example, on a single family home, when you purchase that home, you got so much water frontage, and maybe you're only starting out with one boat, but how many boats can you have there? Because it's not unusual, as you know, down here in Southwest Florida, have more than one boat, a larger one and a smaller one. And then some of your states can even have multiple lifts and along with a floating dock. So we got to pay attention to this. But what people don't take into consideration is the fact that when they're purchasing that property, or they're looking at a pre-existing property, I should say, is what's the pound of that lift, compared to, the size boat they're looking for. And during a low tide, will they be able to get that boat off the lift? Okay. Take that another step farther. In a low tide situation, will they be able to navigate out safely to open water, or must they wait for the tide to come up? And are the bridges involved? Is it water direct where there's no bridges, or is it water indirect where they have bridges? And I think there's a lot of information there that people just don't have access to. And we're going to help them, come together with that today. Same with condos and villas and out there. A lot of condos have the same, issues. For example, in a condo or a villa, is it water direct? Is it water indirect? Bridge height and that. And something that always pops up, do they have a boat slip for every owner? That's also, they don't always take that into account. And the other thing they don't always take into account before they come to see you is a lot of times they have restrictions on boat length. They can only go up to a certain size. So they have to take all these things, into account. So moving forward, Chris, I know that today, before we get into, really, the boats and the models that are very popular and everything, I think it's only fair I read a disclaimer to the audience so that everybody realizes that we're here to give value. So today's webinar is a reference guide. We'll review some of the more popular boat sizes and models in the marketplace. Other manufacturers make similar options, so use what you learn here to guide your choices. Ultimately, it's about matching your lifestyle, property, and your boating goals. And Chris, before we dive into these boats, I know you just came back from the, Fort Miami, I should say, the big boat show out there and different things. And I know you've been obviously in the business a long time. Any new and exciting things we should know about before we dive into this?
Yeah. There's the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show was pretty much the span of all last week, and a few things that unfortunately I'm obligated to hold back on a little bit. Couple of things that are happening right now is there are some things that the technology is being, I'm going to say, just revised, or there's some changes coming a little that are not huge, what I would say, but they are definitely just kind of improvising and building on what's already in place. So the technology is only getting better, and that's been the case for my entire 33 years of being in this business. Coincidentally, Mike and I were just talking about this earlier, and we were kind of prepping for this discussion, and I didn't have a whole lot to share aside from what I just said. And then within minutes after that, I get an email from Grady White Boats, one of our brands that we represent, and it was describing one of the latest things. And we knew this was coming. We've been waiting on the announcement, and we were advised that Yamaha, who is the exclusive power for Grady White Boats and just really the ruler of the industry down here in saltwater. Yamaha has announced that their Hellmaster joystick system. So if anybody has been following the latest trends in the industry for the last, good Lord, 10 years or better, one of the things that have absolutely been just a thriving feature is the joystick systems. Yamaha refers to theirs as the Hellmaster system. So in short, the dumbed down description is basically there's a joystick at the helm, and instead of relying on a combination of steering wheel and controls and everything to dock the boat in some tight maneuvers, you have a joystick, and that joystick makes that boat pretty much go in any given direction you can imagine at the touch of literally just a couple fingers. There are several other benefits integrated into that, but what they just announced recently was that we're going to offer that in remote fashion as well. So you still will have a joystick there at the helm, but now you have the ability to take a remote and walk freely around the boat and dock your vessel in some tight scenarios that maybe you need to be up front looking a little closer at. Part of that system, not only is there a remote with the actual joystick that moves on the remote, there's a touch screen for all the various commands. And then that system comes with key fobs.
Wow.
So it's not a key per se. It's a wearable. They refer to it as a wearable fob. So up to 8 people could have these fobs on them, wearing them. And God forbid somebody goes overboard, it automatically basically shuts the system down, and it goes into kind of a man overboard function. So that's just that is impressive. And again, a lot of the stuff that we just heard at the boat show last week is really preparing us for a lot more cool stuff to come over this season.
You bring up an interesting point. I think even in the 18 years I've been down here, yes, technology is always getting better. I mean, whether you have 1 motor, 2 motors, or 4 motors, or whatever on the back, but the safety is becoming important. But I think with this new technology that's out there now, it's no excuse not to take the boater safety course. It's no excuse to take shortcuts. Pretty easy to drive a boat out on the open water straight ahead and do whatever. It's pretty hard to make any mistakes, assuming you're staying between the navigational buoys.
Yes.
But docking and pulling up marinas can be challenging, but this allows maybe a significant other, spouse or whatever, that the opportunity that might have that steadier hand, than the actual captain himself.
And it's given families, and I just went through this, I think I haven't mentioned this, I have a family that is going through a very similar scenario. In their mind, they had a certain size of a boat that really felt comfortable.
Yeah.
After we talk about some of the technology and the things like joystick and whatnot, for those that would love to go a little bit bigger, but we're limiting their decision based on their confidence.
Right.
That's changing now.
Right.
So there's a local. I'll refrain from the name, but there's a local. I'm sure you know it, on Marco Island. There's a hot spot that you can arrive by water. That is probably one of the most challenging areas on Marco Island to come into, and there's a combination of high, strong currents and high winds, and all of the random boats maybe coming a little bit closer to dockage than they should. So you got the wake and everything.
Yeah.
And then the icing on the cake is probably somewhere between 50 to 100 people sitting at a tiki bar with a drink in hand just for the entertainment value, hoping you're going to stab into another boat.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of technology that really kind of prevents that.
That's wonderful. Well, let's dive into these boats a little bit. Chris, what do we have coming up first?
So Naples Boat Mart is there are 2 hot commodities there on the property, is Grady White and Key West boats.
Okay.
A variety of center consoles, dual consoles. They do offer some express models, but there's a whole lot of different designs that accommodate about whatever we can dream up. So in this first slide, we're going to see a Grady White 236 Fisherman. So the 236 Fisherman, 23-foot center console. Grady White across the board is really going to have a degree of structural integrity that not every brand focuses on. I'm proud of that because ultimately it creates a boat that is going to compete with boats slightly larger than this 23-foot class.
Mm-hmm.
Versatility, meaning it's fishable, it's family friendly. It is something that starts in a size range that gets us what I'll call Gulf capable. but in the same breath, we can come into the intercoastals and be into 16 to 18-inch draft. So that being said, that's the peak of the interest for us in Southwest Florida starts at that 23-foot model.
What do we got next?
If you go into similar size boat, slightly different price point, we're going to get over into the Key West brand. Key West is another family-owned and operated business. We're very proud of that brand. I've been selling them for my entire 14 years of being at Naples Boat Mart as well. But the 23 class Key West, you might notice in the picture that this boat is we're gonna slightly turn up the family friendliness. There's going to be more seating. There's a little bit more comfort built into the boat. We're going to lighten up the build structure of the boat just a bit for the sake of, call it some speed and efficiency, but also to offer up a different price point. Not everybody is looking to pay that premium, that dollar for the top tier brands like Grady White. So I'm a big fan of Key West. My last boat was a Key West, and me and my wife and 2 children love that boat, and that will very likely be my next brand. But another good, what I'll call that mid-tier plus product.
Sounds fantastic.
Just like to take this moment to thank one of our sponsors of our webinar today. Hoot Home Loans offers excellent services and rates for all your mortgage needs, whether you're buying or refinancing. You definitely want to give Lewis a call. I have been working with Lewis over 10 years now, and always does a great job with my customers. So please, his contact information is behind me. Give Lewis a call.
What do we got next?
The Key West, again, this is going to take us into the upper sizes. They make one slightly larger than this at 29 feet, but Key West 263 FS. And the models that we've been looking at, a few of them, you see that FS badging stands for Family Sportsman, and that's exactly what they're chasing here. The sportsman activity, the fishing and all that stuff. But equally, and in my opinion, probably more valuable is the family side of it.
Okay.
So you get up into these size boats, big seating in the bow, big bench seating in the stern, consoles that are large enough to handle head compartments, a lot of protection of a sizable, oversized hardtop. But when we get to the 26 class, now we're going to get into a twin-powered boat.
Right. And at this point, when you get into two motors, you can obviously go with the Hellmaster type.
That's where we start to see the interest in the joystick systems.
Right. Okay. All right. Very good. What do you got next?
We're going to jump back into the Grady White badging here for a second. So we just walked away from a Key West 263 FS. So again, a very family-friendly boat. The versatility is really impressive for that. If we are going to step up the offshore interest a bit and spend a little bit more time in more than, say, a couple miles offshore, then the Gulf is it's uncomfortable. And not everybody looks at it that way because they think, well, it's on average, it's maybe only a 3-foot chop out there. But it's a very tight-knit chop. I refer to it as a washing machine kind of condition. So you can't always make light of the Gulf. So that's where Grady White starts to shine. The Grady Whites will typically be a little bit wider than most of the brands that they're competing against. We've got a 27 class here that is 9.5 feet wide. So it's a very wide platform it's a nice wide platform for a 27-foot boat. But then also the structural integrity, the gauge actually of that hull. If you looked at a cross section of the Grady White compared to a lot of brands, and you actually looked at the thickness of that hull, it is impressive, which is why they are typically heavier. They typically have a higher horsepower rating. In many instances, the boats are going to be yacht certified as opposed to having a person and weight capacity. So that's just one of the things that apply to Grady White from start to finish is just that structural integrity is a little unique.
One thing I think is a good place to pause right here is, especially for the new home buyer, okay, is a lot of times if they're looking at a pre-existing home or they're looking to put an offer in and they like the home, but they might want to go with a different boat size, a larger, at what pound lift does a boat like this need? Where do we, normally, would you agree that 10,000 pound boat lift is kind of the standard, behind a lot of homes, but it's not necessarily heavy enough?
I would say maybe kind of on the threshold of being kind of the starting point.
Yeah.
So the rule of thumb is the dock vendors out there want to see comfortably about a 10% surplus.
Okay.
So if I have a boat that weighs 10,000 pounds, then I'm going to say obviously minimum of 11,000 pound lift or better.
Right.
10,000 pounds. This boat is an example, a 271 Grady. Again, considering that this boat is a little heavier than most in its class, we're going to creep, at or maybe just north of about a 9,000-pound boat. So in
Okay.
that application, the 10% surplus of putting us right around the 10,000-pound range is okay. You get much beyond this, we're going to have, I've got 33-foot models out there, 33, 34-foot models out there. They're going to get upwards of, the 16+ thousand pound range.
Right.
So you make that if I do recall correctly, commonly you're going to see 10,000-pound lifts. It's going to go to 12. The next common jump is 16,
Yeah.
and then the next common jump beyond that is 20,000 pounds. So that probably represents 90+% of the boats you're going to see out there.
And I think it's important that our audience understands that when they're thinking about a boat, that they kind of have an idea, when they're out there looking at property, what pound, lift it really is, just to kind of figure things out.
Yeah.
And then I think one thing that continues to get overlooked is the water depth right there at the dock, so that when they lower that boat into the water on a low tide or a negative tide, can they get off or must they wait a few minutes? And so what do you got next?
So staying within that the Grady White brand here, the last one we talked about was a 271 Canyon, which obviously is a 27-footer. There are plenty of models in between, but then we're going to go up a substantial amount. We're going to go to what's called a 386 Canyon. Side note, the largest center console that Grady White builds is called a 456 Canyon, so 45 feet. But based on its size, the 386 will be quite a bit more popular. The 386 is, again, we're going to keep that the offshore capability absolutely intact. We're going to keep the fishability absolutely intact. But once you get into the 38 class, if you step down inside that console, and do yourself a favor, get on Grady White's website and look at some of these. But when you look at the website and look at the page dedicated towards this one specifically, you start looking into some pictures, and you're going to see what I would describe as a small Fifth Avenue condo down below. It is not just a center console, far from it. The appointments and the amenities that are in the console of a 386 Canyon, and obviously even going up to the 456, it is a very, very overnightable center console. So if you really want to make those really heavy, long distance runs offshore for fishing, for some deep drops, or you join us on some of our events. We have a variety of events throughout the course of the year that take us down north of us and south of us, down through the Keys. Multiple night and day stays at various destinations and resorts. That is a boat that you could actually stay on your own boat. Not many people do these days. Most everybody comes in the resort and enjoys some time on dry land with us. But it's just again, it's just the versatility of Grady White is very, very impressive.
Okay, so last slide we talked about lift capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's switch it up and let's go to clearance. What's the average height in these boats?
Yeah.
Because we have bridges around here, so where are we at with the height in these
And
boats?
you are more informed on this likely than I am, but I think if I'm not mistaken, Marco Island rule of thumb is, I think that one of the lower bridges is like 10 feet.
Yeah.
So everything that we've spoken of, until we start adding radar, some other options to these hardtops, which would start to really add a lot. The 386 is really going to be kind of probably, it's going to demand a little bit more than that 10-foot range, but we're not far off. So we're in Naples really is kind of the same discussion, and oddly enough, really about the same measurement.
Right.
The Gordon River Bridge right there adjacent to Tin City, that is at mean tides is typically right around 10 and a half feet. So very similar. So until you get into some of these boats with some substantial additions like these open array radar systems or second stations with towers and controls and all that stuff, you got to get into probably again, 38-ish foot boat or above before you find yourself more limited. So we're lucky down here. Not every area can say that.
Okay, so basically, if they get a little education on the tides and they get the depth and everything, if they're water indirect, on Marco or another community that we service, they can pretty much have a vessel this size if the waterfront property they like, all the other boxes are checked off.
Absolutely.
Okay, what do we got next?
So we're going to get out of the center console class now and go to dual consoles. Dual consoles, and I love center consoles, but dual consoles have really changed a lot of boaters' intended use down here. Not everybody's looking to fish to the degree that they used to. They like the boat's ability to run like a center console, to handle Gulf water, to do a lot of the things when it comes to the ride of some of the larger center consoles, but they want some comfort. So it's kind of fits well into this discussion. It's like building a house. You got a floor plan. So you have Grady White, like many brands, will have a hull that they will utilize for various different designs. So I can have a 27 or 28 foot hull, and then I can choose a dual console. I can choose a center console. In some variations, I can choose what they call it, express or walk around with a small cabin. Um, but all that being said, dual consoles. They call it a dual console because you have two consoles. You have one on port side and one on starboard side, and then that is completed by a windshield that goes the full width of the boat. So it's going to give us some additional protection from wind, from cool weather, rain, whatever it might be. There will typically be you're going to reach a certain size of the dual console where the windshield goes all the way up to the hardtop. So then you have the utmost in protection. In the, call it mid, say 30 feet and under models, you're going to see a lot of them have removable isinglass.
Mm-hmm.
So there's portions of the year where we can maintain maximum airflow, and you've got that convertible top kind of feeling. And then you still have a removable isinglass set. So that's what the 285 Freedom is. 285 Freedom is a 28-foot dual console, obviously twin power. A lot of seating. You've got an open bow up there with plenty of seating in the forward area. You've got some convertible bench seating across the stern. You have these two powered lounges that extend out to give two people the ability to be in kind of rear facing in like a chase lounge.
Right.
You've got an extendable shade that comes off of the stern of the boat. You have some removable bow shades we can add. So if you have an instance where, I don't care if it's two of you or 10 of you, if you go out for an event, 4th of July is always one that I share a lot. But the dual console has plenty of seating. It's just a very comfortable platform. We're still going to keep all the fishability there, rod holders, live well washdowns, all that miscellaneous stuff. But ultimately, we're going to put a heck of a lot more seating to keep it comfortable.
Sounds good.
I would like to take a moment and pause from our webinar and thank one of our sponsors today, Serenity Title. They just do an amazing job. As a realtor, I'm supposed to give out multiple title companies, and I do, but at the end of the day, I just have to put Serenity Title at the top. Lynette Ferris does an excellent job, her and her team. It doesn't matter if you're in town for the closing or anywhere in the world, she will get it done. She is the best of the best. I recommend coming into her office here on the 5th floor of downtown Naples. It's just a beautiful view and really enjoy the experience. So when you're talking about titles, closing companies, you think Serenity Title.
What do we got next?
Staying in that dual console, one more. This just shows just how successful that dual console class has become. It's called a 415. Grady White makes a 41-foot dual console. It is a super wide beam. There is what you can't see from that image is just how much space is also below deck. So you'll still have all the space up in the bow. You'll still have a very well engineered cockpit space where you can have everybody inside that cockpit with full tempered safety glass windshield forward wrapping around you, a large a removable or actually a sliding moonroof or sunroof in the hardtop as well. Extendable shade. There's just a lot of stuff that really kind of takes that degree of comfort to a unique level.
I got to admit, just the past month, I was on that boat. You blessed my whole team on that boat.
Yeah, that was fun.
And that is such a sweet ride. And then we even did it from a water direct, luxury property. And we went under the largest bridge there on Marco Island there at the Esplanade. And got under there just fine. All those bells and whistles, and boy,
it's a head turner. I mean, it's a sexy boat.
Turner.
There's the saltwater integrity, the overall build quality, everything is great. But I mean, just to see the boat, it's sexy.
It is. It was a wow factor.
Yeah.
What do we got next?
So, excuse me. Now we're going to step outside of the dual console class and the bays and the hybrid. So. The first model we're going to look at there, another one of our Key West models. That just coincidentally is called a 250 Bay Reef. They make a few models smaller than that, but that's just an example of what I'll call a more technical backwater boat. Those that really are have a fever for the intercoastal and backwater fishing. This is the model that starts to shine. You're going to see a lot of elevated fishable deck space. You're going to have that in the bow. You're going to have it on the stern. We're going to have obviously all the appointments on board that accommodate fishing, and the live well and washdowns and rod holders. You're going to have 2 large boxes in the bow of that boat that are lockable rod boxes, so we can keep all the gear secured on board and not have to unload the boat every time. We're going to stay in a single power in a 25 footer there. So ultimately, you've got a boat in the 25 class that is going to still keep us in that, call it 14, 15 inches of draft. So it's still shallow for what it is. It is a boat that is, it's for somebody that's going to spend a better chunk of their time fishing and maybe not as much entertaining the family all the time.
In this particular design, I know it's going to come up in the others, but on the stern there, on either side of the motor, you got those power poles. You might
Yeah.
want to go into that a little bit, and then on the
Yeah.
bow, you got the trolling motor, so you might want to just touch on that.
Power pole and trolling motors. That will be something. Trolling motor, I'll start with that feature because that has, oddly enough, leaked into boats a lot bigger than they used to. I have recently put trolling motors on 33-foot Grady Whites, and I mean offshore capable, big, burly, 16,000-pound offshore center consoles. The power poles. So adjacent to the port and starboard sides of that motor in the photo, you'll have a power pole. They're available in a single power pole or dual power poles, and based on the use of the boat, ideally, let's say it's more of a family use, and all I'm going to do is primarily pull up to the beach consistently, and I want to drop a power pole to keep the boat stable as opposed to pulling out an anchor. Well, that's a single power pole application. For the fishing side, if I'm going to go out and if I want to fish the mangroves, if I want to fish shorelines, whatever, and I want to get that bow positioned in a form where I am standing up off the bow of the boat and casting into a specific location, then the dual power poles tend to thrive because the dual power poles keep the boat from spinning. So that's not a necessity for everybody, but it's a benefit if that's the way you're using the boat.
And I think one other thing to add to that, when you talked about the trolling motor off especially the larger boats.
Yeah.
I remember, for 18 years ago going out on, matter of fact, my good friend had a 33-foot Grady White center console.
Mm-hmm.
And, back then we didn't have the trolling motors for the larger boats. And then you had to, if you weren't drifting, you had to anchor. And, that's a whole other animal, learning how to anchor out there with the set and drift and then keep it so you can get to the fish.
Yep.
Now with those trolling motors, you don't have to anchor, and
No.
it keeps you in place, and it just makes life a whole lot easier.
This with that the trolling motor feature, and I'm using this as an example. Minn Kota's iPilot system
Yeah.
has what they call the spot lock.
Yep.
So it gives you the ability, courtesy of internal GPS, it'll give you the ability, courtesy of remote, to wherever you're at to actually lock the boat in position. And you don't typically get that on the joystick systems for single power.
Right.
If I have a twin powered boat with the joystick systems we were talking about earlier, then that's a feature that you get.
Right.
They call it the set point or the stay point feature. But if we have a single outboard, we really need that trolling motor with spot lock to get it to do the same thing.
Yeah. Sounds good. What do we got next?
So if we take, I'm gonna that Bay hybrid designation that I put on there. The Grady White becomes, in their Coastal Explorer series, becomes more of what I'll call a hybrid. And the hybrid is a mixture of somewhere landing between a true center console and a bay boat. So we're going to try to capture as much of the shallow water operation as possible. The fishability, which is all there. But thanks to Grady White's hull design, we're going to now step up a bit of the boat's capability. So if we do want to go out into some Gulf conditions, and it's a little bumpy out there, then the hybrid class is going to do that better. This boat specifically is called a 251 Coastal Explorer. They make a 231, a 251, a 281, which you'll see in a moment. And then, speaking of new technology, I was told, and we don't have a whole lot to share just yet, but likely in Miami, we're going to have in excess of a 30-foot version of this boat, just purely based on its popularity. So, but what you don't see in that picture, and again, if you have a moment, get on the Grady White website, and you'll see the link to this model. And what you don't see in this picture, there are a variety of, you have electric backrests, power actuated backrests in the bow. So at the touch of a button, those backrests fiberglass backrests do come up and give somebody some forward facing seating. There is an insert for a sun lounge across the bow. There is a cockpit table. There's a number of things that we can absolutely turn this into a party boat for the day if we want. So it's a very popular design for us here in Southwest Florida.
And what do we have next?
So here's where, and I'm sorry that I provided such a picture that doesn't give it all away, but the 281 Coastal Explorer. Take everything I just described in the 251 Coastal Explorer class, sprinkle in quite a bit more Gulf capability. Um, from that picture, one thing it will illustrate is it is a taller, more aggressive bow. There's a lot more flare, what we call a Carolina flare, integrated into the bow. We still have a very aggressive hull design that can accommodate the choppier waters. But as we progress back towards the stern of the boat, part of that Grady White CV2 hull design, a lot of that aggressive dead rise kind of disappears and becomes a lesser degree flatter stern, which gets us that shallow operation. A lot of similarities with regard to the people friendliness topside, the seating, the comfort, the extended shade to give us the coverage. But one thing that you'll see in that picture from that port side angle is you're going to see a cockpit door. On the port side, back closer to the stern, you've got a door as opposed to a door that swings open and hinges in a just a kind of an inside out form. This deploys at the touch of a button. This deploys into what I'll call more of a platform. It drops down into place. You'll see the young lady hanging off the side of the boat. There's a ladder that attaches to that deploys off the side. So not only does it give it that access, but it does become what I'll call like a platform, and it's a comfortable place to be. It's just that's an impressive boat, and I haven't seen many in the hybrid class that really go head to head with that design.
Wow. Well, Chris, you really did a good job of basically explaining to our audience that I'm gonna call it 22 to 40 plus foot boats, all
Yeah,
your different options.
yeah,
I know that you also handle a jet boat that
we
Yamaha
do,
came out with,
we do.
which is a great boat to do a lot of cool things too. And that's, I mentioned it. You might as well just give it a quick
Yeah.
overview of that. So what's the difference?
Yamaha's made a lot of headway over the last several years, and I think we finally got to the point where the jet propulsion is really finding its way into the Southwest Florida markets. It's obviously thrived on the East Coast for a number of years, and I think we have just been waiting for the right venue, the right application, and the right buyer. And we started this over a year ago. It's been working for us, and it's something that really has opened up some doors for us. Of all of the brands that we stock and represent, basically as small as call it as small as 17 feet and as large as 45 feet. The one thing that I've really kind of drilled into everybody for a lot of years is a number one. There's a lot of choices out there, and I'll never claim to be the only one. I am very proud of the fact of the brands that we have and how they really cater to Southwest Florida. What I will say is this: I am always just more of a. I will take pride in being more of a resource of information than I am anything, more than a salesman or anything else. So as you start to, if you're early in your process and you're thinking about what size, what design, just what anything, then please let me know. Give me a call. I will always, if I'm not the right avenue to get you where you need to be, then I promise you, you have my word that I will get you in the right hands. So I know Mike takes the same approach. We're looking. The net result is we want a customer base of people out there that are happy and that are out there, spreading the good word.
And we want to provide value and an
So
education. And at the end of the day, I just think that this was something that was missing out there for our viewers, trying to match that waterfront property
yeah,
to the boat and have a better understanding. And, and now between us, they can hopefully they'll get a better understanding. And of course, they can come see us anytime. So your contact information is there. And one other thing, obviously, when I came down here, you were a great resource, but I just wanted to learn as much as I could. So I went to some of the Coast Guard auxiliary classes and just fell in love with it and ended up joining. So for basically the last 17 years, I've been a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and now for the last 15 or so, I run the operations. I'm a coxswain. I'm, AOR area responsibilities from Gordon's Pass all the way down to the Everglades. So there's some classes we're teaching right now. All you got to do is scan in the QR code. Talks about the classes we have available, right now till the end of the year. Our winter schedule is not too far behind, but these are classes that are meant for the beginner, but also for the experienced boater. And we, really get into some details, showing some good routes, some safe routes, and how to go about it. We developed just a new class this past past summer, we dove into it because we kept us having all these questions. We developed a course called Navigating the Everglades National Park, which is a little farther south, but really, even from Gordon's Pass, it's an easy run to get down there. So we're providing hopefully an educational class where we'll be given about 20 routes, take you down the Wilderness Waterway in and around that area. It's going to go from Indian Key Light down to the Chatham River, which is only a portion of the park, but just amazing. So it does require a draft Pacific boat, but most of those hybrids you mentioned, they can easily do it
Yeah.
with the right knowledge and understanding the tides
And
and
electronics.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
electronics and everything like that. So it's doable. So yeah, and then on top of that, just want everybody to know, and I know you've been involved with this, is that the Coast Guard Auxiliary does give free vessel exams, and
yeah.
I don't care. Every year, it's good to have your vessel exam. The free, they'll come on, make sure your fire extinguisher's all right, flares, just get you checking. The biggest thing I see is navigation lights. And even on the newer vessels, which are LED and they're supposed to last longer, doesn't always
Yeah.
work like that. So,
Not
and
something you check typically, and
no,
then you don't expect you're going to be out later than normal, and you find out that a couple of your lights aren't active.
yeah. So it's really important out there. And then something else of interest that and again, they're really grown is there's a online fishing club called Salt Strong. My team sponsors a local chapter called Marco Island 10,000K chapter. It's the third Tuesday of every month. The information's on the slide there, and so forth. But if you enjoy fishing, beginner or even experienced, it's just a great way to get involved and learn more about fishing and the products they have. So I definitely come check it out and see what you think about it. And then, of course, being in real estate, I just love, getting a chance to talk to people like you do, just like
Yeah.
you call it cutting the pie when they come into you to learn about what type of boater they're going to be and what they're looking for and everything. I just call it, hey, they're new to Southwest Florida. Just alone in Collier County, we have like 57 miles of coastline,
Yeah.
between the sandy beaches, the barrier islands. There's a lot of cool little waterfront communities in and around there. And sometimes it's not the price point, it's just what amenities or what kind of lifestyle are they looking for. So if they're not sure, they can call us and we'll take them out in where we feel is the right area and we'll give them a boat tour and kind of see what it looks like from the water and get a better understanding of everything we talked about today. And if they've kind of narrowed down the house they're looking for, I know they can give my good friend Chris Judd a call. And if they found a boat that Chris has over there at Naples Boat Mart, I think we can probably coordinate where they can go take that new boat out to the potential new house they're looking for, take it behind there and size it up to make sure that, hey, this is really going to work. The weight of the lift is right, plenty of water, even on a low tide. So, and I enjoy going along when we take one of your new boats out and show them a new house at the same time.
It is. It's more fun than it is work
Oh
for
yeah,
me.
I mean, because at the end of the day, we just want you guys to match the
Please
right
make me come out on a
waterfront
boat with you,
property.
okay? Please.
Yeah, absolutely. We just want you to match the right waterfront property with the right boat. And again, like you have a great team over there at Naples Boat Mart.
For sure. Yeah.
Service and everything. Boat captains that go out and do all this stuff. With them. I'm very fortunate too. I have a great team that I work with. So at the end of the day, reach out to us, and we will put you in contact with our team members to make this a smooth transition all the way through the sale of your waterfront purchase or the sale of your boat and the extended service that goes along with it. With that being said, Chris, I really appreciate you coming
It's
on
always
and
fun, buddy. Thank you very
and
much.
do what we do. We'll do some more. We'll come up with some more great ideas.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, this is Chris and this is Captain Mike. We're out.
Thanks, everybody.
Like, follow, and subscribe.